So are these Sony 750Xs the best budget closed-back headphones around? Let's find out. Hello, welcome back to David Talking Tech and Audio. We do it every week here on the channel. If you're subscribed, you already know that. And if you're new to the channel and haven't subscribed, all the buttons are just down there. And if you could drop me a like, it really does help me and the channel out to grow. And just before we get going, talking about these Sony headphones, to let you know that the first episode of the new podcast I've been promising for, it seems, forever now, is up. I did it over the weekend. It's called Minus 16. It's available on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, maybe you could give me a review to let me know what you thought of the content of the podcast. I'll be doing it every couple of weeks, and I'll leave links in the description where you can find those podcasts. And also, pop on over to the website, talkingtechandaudio.com. Leave me your email address there, and soon enough I'm going to be making a midweek newsletter, a video newsletter, and when I do, you being on my mailing list will be the very first to know. So back to these headphones then. I first had them on the channel around about a month ago, middle of December, I seem to think, a couple of months ago actually, and I was a little bit disappointed with them at the time, but recently I decided to dig them out again and start wearing them in all sorts of different environments, all sorts of different walks of my life, and to see how they were impressing me now, if my thoughts had changed. And I have to tell you, over the last couple of weeks, they really have begun to make quite the impression on me. So we'll go back to where we started back in December and talk about the quality. The quality still isn't the greatest, but I started off by saying, are these possibly the best budget pair of closed-back headphones? So I think we need to remember that they are not the most expensive, so the materials are going to reflect that. But taking that into account, the quality is kind of what you'd expect for a pair of sub-£100 closed-back monitor headphones. So they're not world-breaking, but equally they're not terrible. They're not uncomfortable. They just feel a little bit lightweight and a little bit flimsier to some of the other headphones that I've had on the channel, but they're not bad at all. The headband, which kindly says studio monitor on there in case you forgot, isn't particularly well padded, and I don't think the headband or the ear cups are memory foam. I haven't taken them off to check. It does look like the ear pads can be removed, but I don't think they're memory foam, and if they are, there's not a lot of foam in either the headband or in the ear cups. The clamp pressure is something that I remember I spoke about in December, and I prefer a tighter clamp pressure. I don't wear glasses, certainly when I'm in the studio I don't need to wear glasses. I guess if you had glasses on and you felt the clamp pressure was going in against the side of the head, these might suit very well. I like a slightly tighter clamp pressure from the headband, but I thought I'd just mention it in case you were to get these and then find that they're a little bit loose on the head. At least you know what you're going to be getting out the box now. Ear cups themselves, we mentioned about the lack of there being too much foam around there. For me at least, and I don't think my ears are particularly big, the ear pads, the ear cups, they kind of sit more on my ear. They're almost on-ear headphones for me as opposed to over-ear headphones. A lot of the headphones that I've reviewed really do go around the ear and isolate you very well. But its weakness is almost its strength, as we'll talk about a little bit later on. So the quality is kind of okay for the price point, and the fit and comfort, again, okay. I wouldn't necessarily say you'd want to wear these for hours at a time. The only big benefit of these are that they're very lightweight. So from that point of view, wearing them for long hours would be comfortable. It's just for me, being on ear, or the cups fitting on the ear as opposed to going just around the ear, makes them a little bit uncomfortable. And as I say, I would prefer a slight bit more of headband clamp pressure. I think these headphones, more than any others actually, where they've changed, they've started to burn in an awful lot, and I've really noticed it in just how they work. The noise cancellation these come with has started to kick in a lot more since they've just started to bed into the shape of my head. They really have broken into me, and that's because I decided to dig them out, the good old venerable headphone cupboard, and start wearing them a lot over the last month or so, since the beginning of the year, and they really have made a big difference in their sound to me. So it just goes to show that actually spending some time in a pair of headphones does make an awful big difference. The sound stage on them is very similar, almost to the Harmon Curve. People often refer to the Harmon Curve in headphones and the headphone world, the audiophile world, as being the go-to sound and curve that they're after. And these have got a very similar kind of flattish response to that legendary Harmon Curve. And as I say, that's really come through since everything's just started to break in and fit around my head that little bit better. The bass, again, everything started to warm up and just loosen up a little bit over the last couple of weeks. As I said, I've been wearing them regularly now for about a month, and over the last couple of weeks, everything just started to feel easier on the sound for me. And the bass isn't too bloated. It delivers a really good delivery. It doesn't interfere with the mids too much. And again, I think because the fit has started to get used to my head a bit more, the bass that I didn't like so much in the first video back in December has really started to shine through. As I say, the main thing is it's not too bloated, and I think that was probably what I was alluding to in that first video when I was saying it's a little bit muddy. I think these really do need to break in with use. One of my pet hates is when the drivers just inside the ear cups here underneath these foam pads are sitting directly on my ears. It interferes with not only the comfort and the enjoyment of wearing the headphones, but also with the sound delivery as well. Now these aren't quite, they're approaching it, they're nearly touching my ear, but that's because there's not so much padding around these cups. I wonder perhaps if there's another pair of pads you could put on there that would still fit. It looks like these are interchangeable, but they're not quite sitting on my ear, but nearly. Now that leads me on to the next point of sibilance. Actually, again, these have really grown on me in this last month, as you're probably gathering. The sibilance, it's there, it is reasonably sharp, but again, getting back to that Harmon Curve, the way they're dealing with the sibilance in the overall delivery that they're giving through the mids, through the highs, through the bass, it actually sits reasonably well. I've listened to quite a number of vocal mixes on this pair of headphones, and the sibilance, it certainly isn't painful. It's not a sharp, painful delivery that's going to really begin to grate on you after a day of wearing them. And that's, again, coming back to this price point of where they're pitched, I think that's an astounding feature, that they've managed to very well deliver and separate off the mids, the bass, and the sibilance, because some headphones, and I'm sure you know what I mean, the sibilance can be painful even after a very short time, let alone wearing these for a day, which I have done many times since the start of this year. Without doubt, there's an overall airiness to these. I was actually wearing them in the living room a couple of days back after I'd finished in the studio one night. I took them in there. Television was also on in the background, and I could hear a little bit of the television coming through, even with the noise cancelling that these have on them. And I think that is what's almost making them comparable. They sort of cross the line between being closed back to open back. There's a definite airiness there to it, and they deliver a really lovely soundstage. Now, somebody emailed me recently after one of these videos talking about the soundstage and what we mean. The best way I think I can describe it is if you imagine that you're sitting directly in front of, or looking straight ahead when you're listening to some music in a pair of headphones, and with your eyes shut, you can always picture where the musicians and where the instruments were placed, where the drums are, piano, bass, and some, where the singer is, trumpets. You can picture it all. If you can do that when you're wearing a pair of headphones, then they are delivering a good soundstage. And with these, I found with that little bit of airiness that's going on, the soundstage that they gave me was wonderful. Now, if you've watched many of my videos, you know that I always use 2 tracks as reference tracks, and I've left notes of both those tracks in the description. I do that because of familiarity, and I know those tracks so well. If I put those particular tracks on time after time after time in the same listening environment, then I know what I'm expecting to hear and how they deliver and compare. This time through, particularly because of that way they were dealing with sibilance, I decided to throw another track in the mix. I do love a bit of jazz, and I don't know if you're aware of Miles Davis, the trumpeter, his Kind of Blue album. There's a legendary track on there called So What. It's a beautifully recorded track by Rudy Van Gelder. And I listened to that in these, and there's a lovely part where there's a part around about halfway through where Miles finishes a solo, and then there's a cymbal, I think possibly a ride cymbal, comes in, and it sounds like it's way over on the right-hand side. And that's a great example of what I mean by the soundstage. I could hear this cymbal almost off stage, it was so far right, and it really delivered almost an audio picture to me. And it dealt with that ride cymbal really well. There wasn't a hint of sibilance to it. It was crisp and shimmery and exactly what I would have imagined it to be, almost as if I was standing in the studio with Van Gelder and Miles and all of the lads on that session back in the 50s. But as I say, I keep coming back to the point I'm referencing for the price point. These have really become quite a revelation to me, and I've enjoyed wearing them an awful lot. Knowing I was going to make this video, I wanted to test these headphones in all sorts of environments. So not only here in the studio or even in the living room, but I've taken them out of the house as well and taken them on walks with me. I wanted to see what the noise cancelling was like away from a studio environment, and they really impressed me. I had to use a lightning adapter to go into the iPhone 12, of course, but because of the drivers, you've got plenty of headroom. You're not going to struggle with volume on these at all. Lightweight, as I've mentioned, so when you are out, the lightweight actually comes into its own. They're really comfortable to wear. And the fact that also they fold up quite well, that if you were going to say go away for the weekend and you wanted to take these with you, in that little carry pouch that I mentioned you get with them, they fold up really neatly. They'd fit into any kind of luggage for the weekend, and they'd be a good wear. I've enjoyed wearing these out and about, and I'm going to continue to do so as well. And it's testimony to how good these are that I've enjoyed them even in that kind of environment, which is not where they're meant to be made for. One of the things I haven't been so keen on, and that isn't only with the Sonys, it's across all headphones, is that the cable is not detachable. So of course that means if the cable gets damaged, and unless you're really good with a soldering iron, which I'm not, then you're going to struggle to repair them. But I don't particularly like long cables, and as you can see with this cable, it is a lengthy cable, certainly as it unravels from its coil cable shape. It's a long cable, so in the studio it does get in the way a little bit. I'm not super keen on that. It comes with a gold-plated 3.5mm jack at one end, as you'd expect, but I just think that they could do with making the cable detachable and giving you a shorter option as well, because most of us working in a smaller studio don't need that much cable, and it does tend to get in the way just a little bit. But as I say, away from the studio, these have been really, really good. So overall, what do I make of these Sony 7506 headphones? For the price point, and bearing in mind, I bought these for £82. For £82, they are a really good pair of headphones. Just give them time to burn in. Do me that favour, before you judge them, just get used to them. I didn't like them so much a couple of months ago, but now I've got used to wearing them, I'm really starting to appreciate what these can bring to me. The link in the description is an affiliate link, so if you want to click on that and buy these headphones, it really does help me out. I get a little kickback from it. They're a great price on Amazon at the moment, and I think for many people they could be a great pair of headphones as well to have just to use in all sorts of situations. So if you're looking for a budget pair of closed back headphones that double up as not only a pair of studio monitor headphones, but also to be able to take away from the studio to use and enjoy, honestly, I think you might quite enjoy these. The fact they've changed dynamics to me so much over the last month or so has been a real revelation. As I say, more almost than any of the other headphones that I've used over all of my years. These have really changed how they sound to me. And I've got a feeling it's something to do with this cup design. They've just started to get used to the shape of my ears. Even though they sit on my ears rather than around, they're now starting just to bed in and just get used to the shape of my head. So they feel comfortable, they're isolating more, they're noise cancelling more. They've still got that lovely airiness to them. They're delivering the bass, mids, and dealing with sibilance really well. So for under £100, I can honestly say you can't go far wrong with these. If you fancy getting yourself a pair of really affordable monitor headphones, why don't you try these out? So do let me know in the comments how you found these Sony headphones, the 7506. They're so popular, I'm sure many of you have got them already, and maybe how I've described the sound to you has made you realise what they're bringing. They've got some lovely elements to them, and I'd love to hear what you think of these headphones. As we've just mentioned, for the money, unbelievably good value, but do let me know in the comments as well. Don't forget, the podcast is up -16. On there I talk about Apple news, I talk about tech news and audio news. It's going to be every 2 weeks, and as I say, it's already on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Links for those are in the description, and do leave me your email address over on the website talkingtechandaudio.com as well, so when I get around to making that newsletter, you are one of the very first to get it. Thank you so much for joining me this week on our review of the Sony 7506 headphones. If you've got a few moments spare, why don't you hang around? At the end of this video, I'm going to leave a link to where you can watch me talking about the Macs that are behind me in particular. You may just be able to see it over my shoulder. The MacBook Pro from 2019 with the Intel processor in. Much maligned. Everyone says it's not a good Mac anymore because of the butterfly keyboard and because of the touch bar. I happen to like it, and it served me really well, and there'll be a link to that video just at the end. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.